what I see is I see a lot of really obedient bad dogs. And again, it's all about a relationship. And the thing is, relationships take time.
Is there any tip that you can share from a beagle owner's point of view regarding beagles?
The frustration of a lot of beagle owners, I would say if you come across another beagle person, you can almost see kind of like the same look of like desperation on their face.
Hello, dog lover. My name is Saro. I'm a dog trainer, also coach dog owners, and welcome to another show. And in this video, I'm going to interview a great person. His name is Fernando Camacho. He's from Fern Dog Training. And he is from New Jersey. He's a dog trainer, speaker, business consultant. He's a family guy, and most of all, he's a beagle owner. Welcome, right. Fernando. Should we call you Fernando or Fern?
My friends call me Fern, so you got to call me Fern.
So we're going to go with Fern. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the show. And let's start with the beagle. You have a beagle, and if you notice, I have beagles too. So
I see you're a little beagle friendly there.
Yes. Welcome to the pack.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your beagle and what's his name, and let's get started from there.
Sure. So my beagle's name is Bowie, and he is about 3.5 years old. And it's funny, so like my last dog previously was a pit bull, so I've always been a pit bull guy. She's kind of the dog. I say, I think every dog trainer has like a dog that kind of pushed them to become a dog trainer, and so my pit bull Haley was that dog for me. She passed away. I took it hard, as you might, most of you listeners can understand too. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not ready for another dog, and my wife and kids were. So I told my wife, it was the spring. I told my wife, okay, maybe in the fall we'll get another dog or whatever. I'm not ready for it right now. 10 days later, we had this beagle. It was kind of just presented to me. It was like almost basically handed into my lap. And even though I wasn't ready, my kids were ready. And I tell you, he was a challenge. But he's a good boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They are challenging dogs in breeds, and I have, most of my viewers are beagle owners, and we talk about a lot about beagles and the challenges of raising and training beagles. And it's good that somebody else is, another dog trainer is in the same boat as us and is going through the same challenges. But they are fun dogs. They are great dogs. And, we'll talk more about beagles. But my first question is from you is, how did you get into dog training, and what sparked the passion to get into dog training?
Okay. So I've had a very windy path to go here. Dog training was my 5th career, I think, if I'm counting correctly. I've done a lot of different things. All my careers were totally unrelated to whatever I'd done previously. And what happened was in 2008, I was a real estate appraiser. And if you remember, 2008 in the United States was not a very good time. That's when the market crashed, and overnight I had no work. I had not, my income was stopped immediately. And for, a number of weeks and I think months, I was just like, all right, well, what am I going to do? And I was like, all right, I got to find a new job. And I had reinvented myself a number of times, so it wasn't a big deal. I'm like, I'll find something to do. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do. And I remember I was like scrolling through this, like every morning I would go and I'd look on these online job boards, just looking for, and as I'm scrolling through, I see a little ad for like a dog obedience trainer. And I'm like, wasn't aware that was a job. That sounds interesting. And, I'm a big animal lover. I used to work for the Wildlife Conservation Society in a past career at the Bronx Zoo. So animals are always a passion of mine. And I remember looking down at my dog, Haley, who I mentioned earlier, and I'm like, she's a good dog. We have a great life together, but I see other people struggling. Maybe I can help them out. And I thought it'd be something that I would like and be good at. And it just kind of like exploded. It took off. And I feel like it's because that's what I was kind of meant to do.
So that's how it started. In a way, you started to build a business around dog training.
So yeah, I told my wife, listen, I'm going to do this. She's very tolerant and patient of my crazy ideas and stuff. And it was a challenging time economically because I needed to work, and we were expecting twins. So I was going to have a lot of expenses. But I've always done things that I'm not going to take a job that I don't care about. So I knew I would like it, and if I put 100% in it, I was sure I could be successful. So I just started learning as much as I could and just started doing it, and it just started snowballing, and my business grew like 100-200% for like the first 3 or 4 years in a recession. So it was pretty cool.
Wow. So just go back a few years. Many years ago, I came across your videos, and that's how it kind of, I was also already in the dog training business too. I had doggy daycare as well. And when I came across your videos, that kind of, gave me the idea, I could share videos, I could share ideas and content. And, you stood out for me just because of the quality of the content that you were providing, and also the personality that you had. So that's how I became a big fan of yours from years ago. And I'm very excited to have you on my channel now, which is it's a great circle to come around.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I find we're all kind of like the one thing that I kind of was a little disappointed with when I became a dog trainer is I find that so many dog trainers are very polarized, and they kind of don't get along so well. And I'm like, we're all in this together. Like, let's be on the same team. Exactly. So it's just great to see you doing what you're doing. And, it's cool with technology now, we can help people at a much greater scale. And it's just so great. So I love the stuff that you're doing, because it's reaching so many people who need to hear the message.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm sure you have heard this phrase that, they say if you put 2 or 3 dog trainers in one room, the only thing that they agree is the other one is wrong.
Yeah.
I think our goal in general is to help dog owners. No matter how we do it, it's just a matter of helping them and giving them the information that they need. I think the only difference between a dog trainer and a dog owner is the gap in between knowledge that they have. And I think the only thing that we do also is we spend a lot of time learning about dogs and working with dogs, and ourselves, I'm sure you do too. You're still learning too. We're still learning, and as soon as we learn something, we want to share that information with dog owners. And you are one of the few dog trainers that I can comfortably invite and talk, because you are not one of those type of dog trainers who uses aversive tools and force and things like that, which we're going to talk about itself. But one of the things that stood out for me was you call yourself a state of mind dog trainer, and I've studied you, and also so I wanted you to share a little bit, talk about it more in details. What do you mean by state of mind dog training or dog trainer?
Sure, yeah. And what it is basically is dogs are victims of their state of mind, and they make really good choices in a calm state of mind, really poor choices when they're excited or aroused. So if we just work to get them calm, a lot of their behavior will fall into place. So I always use the example, I would rather have a calm dog who's doing anything than a dog who's sitting with like a crazy state of mind. Because what happens is what I see is I see a lot of really obedient bad dogs, which is they will do whatever you ask them for that moment for the treat. But the rest of their behavior is horrible, because excitement has been rewarded so much that is their default, and they're bouncing off the room like a pinball machine, making a whole bunch of poor choices. I had this kind of epiphany with my pit bull. So when I was working with my dog Haley, I got her before I was a dog trainer, and then in the early years, I think she was probably like 4 when I became a dog trainer. We learned a lot of stuff. We learned a lot of obedience, and we did advanced obedience. We did all kinds of skills and stuff. And about halfway through her life, I remember asking her to do a down. And she just kind of stared at me. She's like, I'm like, does she know I'm a dog trainer? Come on. And I asked her again, and she just stared at me like she never knew it. And so I had to lure her into a down. And at this point, I'm like questioning my whole career choice. I'm like, how can a dog trainer not have a dog that does one of the simplest things? I'm like, what's wrong with her? We've learned this. I used to do downstays across crowded rooms, which is hand signals. We know this. What happened? And then I realized as I thought about it that, you know what? I haven't asked her to do a down in like 4 or 5 years. Like, why? I don't understand. Why don't I ask? Like, that's why she doesn't know it. Okay, we don't do it. And I'm like, well, why don't we do it anymore? And then I started to think, I'm like, I can't remember the last time I asked her to sit. Like, why? I was like, we learned all this stuff. Why don't I ask her to do anything? And the reason is I have rewarded calm so much that is her default, because she doesn't get anything she likes until she's calm. So she is calm, has become her default. So she is good without me having to intercede. So halfway through her life, she knew nothing. She knew no obedience. But she was a great dog because she was making better decisions. And that's where I had this kind of epiphany that state of mind is the focus. And if we just focus on keeping these dogs calm with a clear head, they're going to make better choices, and it's not as necessary to keep telling them to do stuff. So she kind of taught me, once I realized that focusing on their state of mind will always have ripple effects on behavior that is long term.
So basically, obedient dog doesn't mean a good dog. It's a matter of having them in good state of mind, and preferably we assume that the calm state of mind is much better than excited mind, right?
Yeah, they make really dumb choices when they're excited. They're not as open to suggestion. So my Beagle, he knows nothing. My kids taught a sit and a high five. I did teach come. Other than that, he doesn't know anything, but he's a really good boy.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean you can't teach stuff. So I always say anything you do on top of it is gravy. Teaching anything is just a plus. It's just a win-win. It increases your communication. There's so many mental exercises, so many benefits for teaching stuff, but you can't do it in place of rewarding that calm state of mind. And if you do that, focus on just rewarding that calm state of mind, you don't need any more if you really want to have a good dog, you know? So that's why I always focus on that first, and then you want to do everything on top of that, it's awesome.
What is it that makes dogs or dog owners to get them to get their dogs excited, and what is it that we can do to help dog owners to not practice that behavior with their dogs?
I think it's all about helping people understand the dog's point of view. So the basic of all dog training is whatever we reward, we're going to get more of. So if your dog is excited when he gets his food, it's excited when he meets people, it's excited when you come home, if he's excited when you go outside for a walk, if he gets all these things when he's excited, he's like, excitement is pretty cool. Like all these good things happen when I'm excited. I might as well be excited more often. And when they're excited more often, they make dumb choices. And that's when it comes with a slew of ripple effects of behavior problems. So if we just structure their world so that, I always say dog training should be a win-win. So my dog wants something. So my little guy, Bowie, as I'm sure all your Beagle people will attest to, is food obsessed, like crazy, off the charts, food motivated. But when I'm making his food, at breakfast time, he is so chill. He's just calmly waiting, looking up at me. I put it down. He just calmly looks up at me, says, please. And because he knows the only way he's going to get that food is if he's calm. If he's at all excited, it is never going to happen. So I don't have to ask him anything. He's realized that the quickest way to get my food is to be calm. He's realized the quickest way to go meet this person is to be calm. The quickest way to go out that door is to be calm. So he's not stupid. He's not going to wait. He's going to take that shortcut right away. So if we're just structuring the way what they want is just in a calm state of mind, they're going to take the shortcut all the time, and they're going to be calm more often because of it.
So for example, let's say a dog owner gets home and the dog starts jumping up and getting excited because mom or dad has arrived home. Excitement is building up, and most dog owners, what they do, they either say, oh, my dog is happy to see me, or they say, sometimes I get it here too, because I have a doggy daycare here. People come and pick up their dogs, and their dog is happy, excited, and all that. And they say, "What's wrong with you? You've been in daycare all day playing, and now you're excited. So much energy. You have so much energy." So, how would you explain that?
Well, I think there's triggers of excitement. Dogs see something, and the thing is, when I'm working on getting dogs to be calm, like a mistake I made when I was younger with my first dog was I expected her to be perfect, to like never go crazy when the doorbell rang, to never, get super excited when she saw, new people. And the key thing is, on her best day, or any dog, on any dog's best day, they're going to be a dog. They're going to act like a dog. So it's not about removing that reaction, okay? They see something new, they should be excited, just like if I saw something excited for me, I'd be excited, So the thing is, not trying to remove that initial reaction, is how quickly can we get them calm? And I just want to shorten that over time. So the thing is, for us, it seems great. Our dog misses us. He's excited to see us. It makes us feel good. But I'm always thinking of the big picture. What is rewarding this state of mind going to do? So it's not easy to ignore your dog, when he's crazy and then wait for him to be calm. It's not a lot of fun. But if you do it, he's smart and he figures out that, okay, they're not going to pay attention to me until I settle down. I might as well settle down pretty quick. So I come home. Bowie is sitting on the couch. He just looks up and he's like, "What's up?"
What's up?
Like he's super chill because I have not rewarded anything, and I can go greet him right away and say, "Hey, big guy, what's up?" I don't have to wait at all. In the beginning, I did, but it's just about fostering that calm mentality.
Exactly. Yes. So what is 1 to 3 things, maybe 1 up to 3 things that dog owners need to know about dogs in general and dog training? What would be your insights?
I think number one, the most important thing is, like, everyone's like, okay, so like a lot of people say to me, okay, we're getting a dog. We want it to be a good dog. So we got to train him. So we need to teach this, and this, and this. And, all that stuff, again, like I mentioned, is nice, but not necessary. So I think people tend to focus on the things that have short-term results instead of focusing on the big picture. And I call it like the foundation stuff. So those really obedient bad dogs, they have no foundation. So if you don't have a foundation, everything you do on top falls through the holes of your foundation. But if your foundation is strong, then you can build on it with all that stuff. So it's all about the structure of the foundation. And I would say if you create a good foundation, it makes everything you do easier. And if you just do that and nothing else, that'll be great. So to get a good dog, it's not about giving people more work. It's not about giving them more skills to teach and everything. All that stuff, again, is nice, but it's not foundational. What's going to make the biggest impact in their life is not giving them more work, but changing the way they do things daily with their dog. So the things they already do on a regular basis, changing how the dog gets his food, changing how they go out the door, changing how the dog gets all of its rewards, just changing how they do the normal interactions, making it sure it's rewarding behavior we want, calm state of mind, and making sure it's on the person's terms, not the dog's terms. If you just do that, your foundation will be rock solid, and then you can do everything else. So that's always like the number one thing that I start with, is just making sure those everyday little moments, those points of touch that everyone does with their dog is happening the right way. Because what happens is invariably people end up rewarding the behaviors that they don't want because they don't see, again, the big picture thing. So I'm always a big picture trying to say, okay, will this serve us 5 years from now? Will this serve us in different environments? Because we got to prepare for that, like right now. So that's probably like the biggest thing, is just making sure you're focusing that. And also, I always make so many parallels from dog training to parenting. Now that I have kids, I realize it's just pretty much identical. So just like different parents have different rules, my kids go to bed at some time. Some of their friends go to bed earlier. Some of their friend goes to bed later. And everyone's like, well, what should our rules be? Should we let the dogs in the bed? Should we let them on the furniture? And the thing is it's up to you. Like, your rules will be different than mine, and that's totally cool. The key thing is, this is critical, just making it sure everything is on your terms, and not the dog's terms. So basically what that means is make sure it's your idea. So if I come in and the dog jumps at me, that's their idea. I want them to sit and then me greet them. If the dog wants to come on the bed, I want to invite them on the bed. You know, that's my idea. Everything is okay if it's your idea. Even the annoying behavior problems like barking, which seems annoying, until I make it my idea and teach speak, shush. As soon as I can turn it on and off, that problem behavior is now cute. Jumping is really annoying until I teach, come give me a hug. It's on my terms, it's okay. So everything is okay. Your rules don't matter. It just matters that you have rules. Right. Those are the two biggest things I would say.
All right. Great tips. And, you know, I always tell dog owners that it's not a matter of, you know, dominating the dog and saying, you know, you do things on my term because I'm the dominant human and I'm the dominant thing. It's not that. It's a matter of seeing to improve a dog's life with you, because us humans are the ones who go and make that choice of bringing a dog to our home. So it's our responsibility to teach them the rules and the boundaries and all the cute and funny things that we want them to do, because they don't know it. They don't know what's the rule of the house, right? And they will do whatever they think is the right thing. Most of the time, whatever they do is the wrong thing because they just don't know. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, all behavioral problems are dogs acting exactly like dogs. It just doesn't fit in with our human agenda and rules. So I always say if we do nothing, they're going to act like dogs. And all the problem behaviors are perfectly appropriate in the dog world. Okay, all that is totally cool. So dogs are very generous. So I tell everyone every day you wake up and you kiss your dog on the head and you say, thank you for abandoning your wild ways and coming to live with us goofball humans with our weird customs and strange rules that seem totally arbitrary to the dog. Luckily, they're very trainable and adaptable. They will figure out our weird, strange ways if we teach them. If we don't, they're going to act like dogs. So it's up to us. They're willing to do it. We just have to put in the time and show them what we want. And as soon as they figure out and we're communicating properly, they're like, okay, sure. I have no idea why you would want that, but sure, I'll do that. You know, if that's what you want, sure. You know, they're totally willing to do it if we just take the time and teach them correctly.
Yeah, they adapt easily. You know, they go with the flow with whatever you provide. Let's say if you provide their meal at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., for example, they go with it. You know, they don't say, you know, oh, I prefer my breakfast to be at 7. You know, they don't think that way. They just go with the flow, whatever you provide. And that's the most amazing part of dogs, that they do accept us and they do agree with us. And, you know, another thing that I always tell dog owners is that dogs have been designed and bred by humans for humans. So take advantage of that and, you know, give them what they need and they will give you what you want.
Yeah, and that's what I usually say is once you have a dog with some behavior problems, it's just an indication that their basic needs are not met. Because if we take care of their basic needs and show them, they will live very comfortably in our world.
And just briefly, what are their basic needs?
You know, I believe it's same as kids. It's structure. So having like rules, boundaries, and what the structure does is it teaches them how to behave and what we want them. So we have a lot of structure and rules up front. As they start to learn, then we loosen things up. We give freedoms. We decide, okay, you know what? You don't need this rule anymore. You start letting the rules go because they've learned, you know. So I like a lot of rules, a lot of structure in the beginning, and then depending upon how the dog does and the individual, you can start to loosen things up and let those go. So basically, definitely having that structure. We have to show them what to do. Exercise is a ginormous one. What we don't realize is we are very boring for dogs. Our lifestyles are not active enough. So if we don't provide them an outlet constructively, they will find a destructive outlet for that energy. But either way, it's coming out. And that their basic canine need is to do that. And I would consider walks kind of like a basic canine need because, you know, I don't care how nice your house is. Dogs need to smell. They need to walk. That's what domestic dog packs in the wild in like Central South America, they just wander. And that's what they're designed to do. They're just designed to explore, check things out. And you do all those things and it makes them happy.
What are the biggest mistakes that dog owners make?
So I would say, number one, expecting dogs to know what our weird human rules are without teaching them. So like a lot of times someone hires me for and they say, my dog doesn't come when called. And I go, okay, well, how'd you teach come? And they go, I don't know, I called him. I'm like, all right, so you didn't teach come. That's why they don't know it. We didn't teach it. So the thing is, dogs are so integrated into our society and our life, we just expected it to be effortless, that they should just, it's another species living in our world. Like, it's not, it's like no matter how good the dog is, I say you're always working on something because it's a culture clash, you know? So I think that a lot of people just, they forget that because dogs are so integrated into our lifestyle. They're members of our family. So we just expect that, you know, we're going to know it. And I feel like people don't understand the amount of time it takes to do that, to teach that. And every dog is a little different, you know, just like every kid's a little different. Some kids take a little more time to learn certain skills. Dogs are the same way. So I think it's just being realistic and also understanding the dog that you have. So there's something I call the dog you have versus the dog you want. Everyone has this picture in their head about this dog they're going to get and all the fun stuff they're going to do. And yeah, this is going to be great. And then they get the dog and the dog doesn't like that. So you may think about playing fetch for hours with your dog, but the dog you get is not really into fetch. All right. I had, when I first got my pit bull Haley, I had visions of frolicking in the dog park while, you know, my dog was playing and I'm gossiping with the neighbors and stuff. And it'd be, you know, and it was like that in the very beginning, but pretty soon she started getting a little grumpy with some dogs. And I realized, okay, now I estimate that her parents were also grumpy with other dogs. So I could have done two things. What a lot of people do is they try to shoehorn the dog they want into the dog that they have. And that never works. So you have to accept your dog for all of its awesome qualities, but understand any limitations. So when I saw that my dog was not a dog park dog, that was the last time at like a year and a half that she interacted off leash with another dog. Now I could have probably got it to work. I almost got a second dog when I had her right before I had my kids because I knew I could get it to work if I could handpick the dog, and it would come with a little grumpiness and maybe a couple scratches, but I knew I could make it work. But other people are not going to be so cool with that. So I made the choice to accept it. You know, I always say my wife has a list of things she wishes that she could change about me, and she's tried. But she comes to a point eventually where she has to say, you know what, that's who he is. And I have to accept that. So I think being able to, and a lot of people, if they've had a dog previously, they're like, oh, but my last dog did this, but my last dog, this is not your last dog. This is a totally different dog. So I think it's understanding that, and specifically with like breed consideration. So when I got my Beagle, my pit bull, very easy to train. All right. And I went to a Beagle, not so easy to train. And when I got him, I said, okay, I'm a little wiser now. I'm not going to make some of those same mistakes, and I'm going to have realistic expectations. I said, I'm going to make him as good as a Beagle can be. So I know there's a lot of stuff I can work on, but I know that his nose is going to rule his life. And if he smells something, it's like I don't exist. I'm going to accept that. So it means I have some limitations with him. He's not going to be off leash like I used to do with my pit bull, but that's okay. He's got all these other great qualities. So I think it's about really understanding, you know, the dog you have, having realistic expectations, and then putting in the time to teach him what we need him to do.
How do you help a fearful dog who's afraid of, for example, people? What would be your approach?
So that is something I'm working on a whole lot now, thanks to COVID. Because everyone got pandemic puppies.
Yes.
And we couldn't leave our homes. So dogs were not socialized. So I have a jam-packed schedule filled with anxiety of dogs that are fearful of people. So I just did a session yesterday with a year-old dog who is very fearful of everything, particularly people in general. So the thing you have to remember about anxieties and fears is it is a slow kind of rehab. And you have to always be understanding that even though we think it's silly, why, hey, it's just a person. Why, like to the dog, it's very real, you know? So we have to understand that. But it's always, you always progress at the dog's pace. And the key thing is you can't rush it, because if you do, you end up going farther back the other way. And you have to try to change the dog's perception from people I thought were really scary to, you know what, they're not so bad, or maybe they could be kind of good, you know? So I find the best thing to do is like walking, just walking together. So I was with this dog I was with yesterday. I went and I approached him. It's the second time I met him. They just rescued him from Puerto Rico. And I met him like when they got him like for a couple days, and he was just like in the corner, you know, really doesn't want to go near me. And as he got more comfortable, they're doing a great job with him. He's overcome a lot of other fears he's had. People is the tougher one. And so I showed up there yesterday, and they brought him outside, and immediately he's barking and growling at me from a distance. And I ignored him completely, and we just started walking. And during the walk, I continued to ignore him completely. I was not holding a leash. I'm just along for the ride. And the thing is that when it's just me, like kind of on their property or something, I'm the only thing to fixate and focus on. I'm the only thing that's new. But when you're walking, there's a lot of other things to keep their attention. And, oh, yeah, this guy's still here. All right, he hasn't killed us all. All right, maybe he's okay. And we just went on a walk. During the walk, the dog is ignoring me. So when we're on the property, he will not go near me. Now he's next to me, almost bumping into me, because you alleviate that eye contact, and the walk is a very therapeutic thing for dogs. It helps them move forward both physically and like psychologically. So we went for that walk, and then we went in their backyard. I sat down. Little guy sat right next to me. Now, he still wasn't keen. He would come over and sniff me and stuff. Wasn't keen on me touching him just yet, but he was very comfortable. He wasn't concerned with me like he was. He would be looking at other things and everything. He was sniffing around. He was totally comfortable with me after that walk, which was not the case in the beginning. So I think the key thing is people try too hard, and like rescue people are the worst at this. They do what I call is trying to win over the dog, where they're like, I'm going to save you, come on. And they like are doing everything on their terms. With an anxious dog, everything is on the dog's terms. So this dog, she had to want to come to me. I don't go into their space. They got to come. I got to make them comfortable enough to come into my space. And it's all about building trust. And trust is not something I get because I think I'm a super cool dog guy. Trust is something the dog decides. She decides when and if I get that trust. So I can make it easy by not trying too hard. You know, a lot of times when I'll see a family, say a family of 5, and they adopt this anxious dog, the dog does the best with the person who didn't want the dog, because they're ignoring the dog. They're not confrontational, and they're not pushing any of the dog's buttons. The other people are trying too hard, and a lot of times that puts them back. So the key thing is having the patience and making sure you're doing everything we can to make ourselves less confrontational, to try to show the dog, all right, you know, these people aren't so bad.
So one person at a time, just expose the dog and make it as positive experience as possible.
Yeah, using food is great, but I found the walk is way more powerful than food. Time and time again, the walk has done, like I remember I fed a dog grilled chicken for 45 minutes, and he would only take it and then go away. And then we went on a 5-minute walk, and he jumped on my lap after that. I wasted all that time and chicken so now I go for the walk, and then I'll follow it up with the food. But the walk is always, I don't think I've ever had anything dramatic as that dog who jumped on my lap afterwards, but it's always been a big game changer, where it's been a big positive step forward, more so than just the food alone.
Yeah, I find when dogs are in that state of mind of anxiousness or nervousness or fear or whatever, they don't accept food anyway. So
yeah,
the food doesn't have as much value that we think. So that's one of the reasons also that I don't, in general, use food as well. I don't see any use of food in dog training, because you have to, as you know, we're going back to state of mind. You have to change that dog's state of mind, and I think the state of mind changes not with feeding the dog, but by showing and changing the way that the dog thinks about whatever it is. In this case, it's a man or a woman or a person or whatever, a kid that the dog is afraid of. And I think it's a good idea to teach the dog that every human may not be the best thing for you, but they're harmless, right?
Yeah, we're just changing their impression of it. They have this misguided impression of what all people are like. So we're just trying to show them that, you know what, you were wrong. And like I always say, it's like it's the dog's fan club, and you're trying to build the dog's fan club one person at a time. Mm-hmm. So once someone is accepted, once you've built trust with the dog, you're in the fan club. And once you're in the fan club, you usually get a lifetime pass. So when he sees you again, he's like, oh yeah, that guy's cool, I remember him. And the more people in the fan club, the easier it is for other people to come in. So we're just trying to, one person at a time, build the dog's fan club till the velvet ropes come down. He's like, yeah, everyone come in. I expect everyone to be awesome. Why not?
So you suggest, for example, if you have a dog who's fearful, pick a person every week or so, go for a walk with them, let that person hang around with you and the dog as you're walking, and close that gap. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing is finding people who can take direction within a regular basis, because it's a numbers game. Mm-hmm. So it's great, because we did this big, I was there for an hour and a half and we worked, and the dog, I built that trust over that hour and a half and everything, and that's great. But then they take the dog on a walk and they see someone coming, that person's not going to spend that time or sometimes it takes a little time. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have the people to work with, we're going to be limited by our resources. So that's the trickiest thing, is we need volunteers, and in COVID, no one wants to get near anybody. So it's a little bit it's very difficult right now to work with people on these things. But so it's like starting with people who can take direction, friends, neighbors, family members, and we can just build, that fan club one at a time, so that at least you're improving things, at least in your inner circle. And then we do the best we can to use the environment to our advantage when possible. Right.
It is very challenging times, not only for us humans, it's very challenging for dogs in general too, because again, as you mentioned, pandemic puppies, this is very common now. I experienced it myself too with many dogs and people as well, that they're going through the same thing. So this is one of the common questions that I'm getting. So that's why I wanted to get your point of view as well. And the other question that I also get is aggression. How do you deal with aggression towards others, dogs and people? And I have a question that somebody has sent me, and I'll read it for you too, but general aggression. So I'll quickly just read the question so you have an idea also. I rescued a 5-month-old Siberian Husky, and she was totally afraid of humans. I brought it home and from the dog park and introduced it to my own dog. Its name is Ruby. Ruby is an abused dog. She's now 4. I mean, he will bark like crazy when someone comes to my gate. If I let that person in, I have to watch Ruby, or she will run up behind the person and nip their butt, or just run behind them and bark. I have raised dogs all my life, and I am now 70 years old, and this is the first dog I have not been able to get to stop barking at people.
And you said the dog is 4 now?
4 now, yes.
4. So what I want to know is, what's been going on the last 4 years?
Yes, she had it from 5 months old.
Yeah. So like I said, this stuff never doesn't come out of the blue. Every time someone sends me something, especially being a pit bull guy previously and stuff, it's like people always love to send me, pit bull bites child, they're like, look, I told you pit bulls were bad. And as I read every article that they send me, I can see all the little warning signs, the red flags that this was building. I'm totally not surprised. I would have predicted this was going to happen if they told me that this is what was happening. So the thing is, this stuff never happens over the blue. So we can try to address it definitely now, but this should have been addressed. Like as soon as I see there's any kind of problems, everything is better addressed today than it will be tomorrow, next month, next year. So we got to identify it soon because we'll need to do less work. It won't take as much time. So that's the first thing, is it's been building for a period of time, you know, so that means we have to put in more time. And the problem is here, everything is a balancing act between treatment and management.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we can control the environment, the more we can treat it. The less we can, the more we side towards management, understanding that management doesn't change anything long term, but sometimes it's necessary. So what I need to address this is I'm going to need volunteers who don't care about a grumpy Siberian Husky, which is probably pretty rare. So that's the problem. We're going to be limited by our volunteers. But the thing is, we have to figure out, okay, is it because the dog is, there's a couple things you can hear. Is the dog is a little territorial about their home? Does it happen only in the home? Or does it happen on walks? Does it happen in other environments? Then we're starting to figure out what the core of the problem is. Mm-hmm. Is it this, that they don't like all people? Or is it just all people on the property? Or is it just men? We have to really dial down to figure out what the specific trigger is. And then I always like to kind of do a little research. A lot of my session is asking a lot of questions, just trying to figure out what the dog's motivation is. Mm-hmm. Is it, a lot of times, it's lack of structure, that they're not actually providing, like, if the dog is uncomfortable by this person comes in and no one is doing anything about it except for me, the dog's got to do something. Mm-hmm. You know, the dog thinks I got to take care of this. So they have to step up in that moment and let the dog know that, okay, this is not appropriate. This is not your job. It's my job. Mm-hmm. And so I find a lot of people are not communicating properly, and dogs don't want a lot of jobs. They want to sit on your couch and get fed. So once you step up, a lot of times it makes them a little more comfortable. Huskies are a little tricky in general because they're not really bred to take a lot of really direction. They're bred to live outside and do their own thing. So they're a little more challenging as well. But the key thing is, for something like this is, and luckily it doesn't sound like it's very serious. All we're doing is getting a little nip at the butt. Right. So I would want to change. I want to see, okay, is that if the dog is acting kind of nervous or aggressive towards people in all situations, then it's an association to people, and we have to change the association to people. I'm going to go on walks, then I'm going to give the dog food, just to say, okay, people are cool, and occasionally they spit up hot dogs. All right, let's let them in. Let's let them in the house because I want that. Yeah. And then if I see that it's happening maybe just in the home, then I got to get the people to come in and take a little bit more ownership of that, work with the dog. First, they work with the dog to get the dog settled and take an authoritative approach where, listen, you're not getting access. I would have the dog on leash, and you don't get to go near my guest. That's my resource, like that. Then I get them calm. Then I'll have the people throw like high value hot dogs or something to get the dog open to mind, like, ooh, this is cool. It sounds to me like it's fear-based because the dog is only biting when they're retreating. Mm-hmm. So, when you're facing the dog's like at a distance, but as soon as you turn your back, he gets confident. Mm-hmm. So to me, it sounds like the underlying thing is anxiety, like I'm not comfortable with people. So he's screaming for help. He's like, please show me how to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. So we have to kind of reframe his behavior. One of the things I would definitely do is when people leave, I'm going to take a handful of hot dogs and just throw it on the ground so that instead of looking to nip the people, they're like, what do you drop? Mm-hmm. And they're focused on, that's the new habit. Right now, it's probably just a habit. Right. But I think there's a couple things, like with any aggression case, it's not a really black or white thing. It's not a one size fits all. Mm-hmm. So the first half of my session is just me asking tons of questions, just trying to get inside the dog's head, inside their world, and figuring out what is the motivation, what are the specific triggers, and then creating a controllable environment. So like the pizza guy is not, you don't work on it with him. It's got to be someone who understands. They're going to do what you say. They're going to put in the time because it may take you 5 minutes to get the dog calm before this person's ever even going to enter the house. Right. Again, we want to make sure the dog is calm. If the dog is aroused or excited or grumpy, he's going to make poor choices. Mm-hmm. So before he ever comes near that person, I want him settled down because he'll make better choices like that.
Very interesting. The point that stood out for me, and I've never thought about it that way myself, is the part that you said that you want to make that person who the dog is reactive towards to make it your resources. That means, just think like a dog. Like a dog says, oh, this food is mine or this thing is mine. Now you're turning the table around and you're saying that human is mine. Don't touch it. don't
Yeah,
react.
everything is your resource. So like the food is really yours. You're just allowing your dog to have it. The couch is really yours. His toy is really yours. And the rule is he's allowed to have these resources, but it comes with one stipulation. You have to obey whatever my rules are. And growling, barking, or carrying on near my guest, you know what? And the consequence for not obeying a rule around a resource is you lose the resource. You don't get to go near that resource. So everything is a resource. Everything's about resource control. So we want to control the resource and structure how they get those resources, how they're able to do it. So that's like the first step is them taking it, because once you have that relationship, and it's a parent-child relationship, the parent controls the resources, then you have the ability to influence them in different situations. So I always start there, and then, okay, once they've taken control of the situation, now I want to change their perception of people. So once they're settled, the dog is away, we've said you don't have access to that person, now I'm going to have the person throw some food, or we're going to go for a walk to say, okay, wow, people are actually pretty cool. Why don't we invite some strange men over? Because they throw up popcorn. They throw up hot dogs like a popcorn machine.
Yeah, exactly. Fascinating. That was very insightful. Thank you for that. Now, which leads me, what are your opinions about shock collars, aversive tools?
So I call myself kind of an open-minded dog trainer in that I don't, I take a lot of different philosophies and stuff, and I have tried a lot of different things. So in the beginning of my dog training career, I was a little bit more of the compulsive side of things, a little bit more of the punishment type of things. And just from experimenting things, I realized, number one, it didn't work all that well. And two, it put me and the dog at risk way more than I wanted. I always say, like, I've been bitten a number of times over the last 12 years. I have not been bitten in the last 6 or 7 years. Except, when I was at a daycare consulting, but with regular owners. And it's not because I've worked with different kinds of dogs. I still work with the same kinds of dogs. I just am smart. And I no longer put myself or the dog in a position where that would happen. And I think that's the key. And I always say it's always about thinking of the big picture here. So dog training, I would say, if it's not fun for you and the dog, we're doing it wrong. We're doing it wrong. And again, it's so similar to parenting. So if my kids are misbehaving, okay, I could spank them. I could hit them and spank them, and I would get an immediate result. They would stop immediately. However, it comes with ripple effects, side effects that I don't want. Okay, they're not doing these behaviors because they fear me. And if you talk to any kid that was hit when they were a kid, they don't really think really highly of their parents typically. Right. You ruin the relationship. And again, it's all about a relationship. And the thing is, relationships take time. And I think a lot of people go to these things because they want a quick fix. And so it takes me longer, and it's more annoying for me to parent my kids and explain things and go over things with them again and again. It's a longer play, but in the end, I'm going to win. Okay, I'm going to build a relationship with my kids and my dog that is not based on fear. It's based with mutual respect, and basically teaching them what they want to do. And a lot of people so you mentioned the word dominance earlier and stuff. Like dominance, I don't even use that word anymore because people do wacky stuff in the name of dominance, and they think their dog is always trying to dominate them. And that I would say that's like me saying my kids who are 12, they're about to hit their preteens, where it's headed, teenage years are heading at me hard, right now. It's like saying when they're acting out and they're slamming the door in my face and they're telling me I'm so mean, it's like they're saying they're trying to dominate me. No, they're being teenagers, and that's the same thing dogs are doing. They're not trying to dominate you. They're just pushing their envelope a little bit. That's what they do. So and I always say a shock collar, what happens is, so let me use the example of using the shock collar for a dog who barks in the yard or something.
Right.
So what happens is here comes a dog towards your property or whatever. The dog barks, so I zap them. Okay. Now we think that the dog is going to attribute the reason this bad thing happened was because you barked. But I don't get to choose what they associate it with. Maybe they realize, every time I see another dog, something bad happens. You know what? I hate other dogs. And all of a sudden, it makes it worse. You know, the problem I was trying to stop is getting aggressive towards other dogs, and I just made it 100 times worse because I don't get to choose what they attribute that negative stimulus. So my opinion is I've honestly never used a shock collar, but I don't like the mentality, the process of it. I also am like I said, I'm an open-minded guy and realize not every situation is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was involved in rescue, we had some dogs that you know, that we tried everything. Like, you know, everything was every trick I knew, you know, tried, and we cannot reach the dog. And at this point, it's life or death for the dog. What are we going to do? This dog is going to be euthanized, or it's never going to get adopted. And then, you know, there's another trainer said, let's try this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm out of ideas. Let's try it with this dog, you know, and it may work for that dog. It is my last resort. You know, especially in a situation like that where the dog if it doesn't work, the dog is going to be euthanized. So, so in those situations, I did have one client that was, before I got there, was using a shock collar she had these two big Ridgebacks, and she had bad carpal tunnel in both her hands. So she really had a tough time, couldn't walk the dogs on leash or whatever. And she was using it, and I was just looking how she was using it. And in my opinion, she was using it appropriately, you know, for that tool. And for them, it worked. So I didn't change anything because she couldn't handle these dogs on leash. She needed, so for her, I thought this is probably a good choice for you. For 99% of problems, it's not going to be the case. There is a better, more humane way than having to do negative stuff. And we just want to make the dog do what we want him to do. And I think it's about understanding their motivation. Their motivation is not trying to stop them from barking at the other dogs in the yard because we don't want it. It's about understanding why they're barking, and now what can we do about it? You know, how do we change the root behavior instead of just trying to mask the symptoms?
Right.
So again, that's just my personal opinion on it.
Right. Yeah. My take on using shock collars, for instance, is I think it could be a last resource. But the thing is that I think it's a good tool to use with wild animals that you have no connection with. Like there's no relationship with that animal. Then yes, it may be a useful tool to use because you have no connection with that animal. And most dogs, they have some form of connection with humans that you can tap into and find that. And most of the time, as you said, 99.9% of the time, we can actually tap into that point and find it and deal with it without using shock collars. And the other part that I kind of feel that it's negative is when you use shock collars in dogs, it creates this electromagnetic field in the body of the dog that it shouldn't be there.
Yeah, it's not natural.
Right. So health-wise, also, if you look at it, it's causing a lot of damage too. And as you said, whenever you're using it, the dog is associating a negative experience out of it.
I think typically it's a shortcut. People
Right.
are trying to take a shortcut, and that's why diet pills, they make a lot of money, because people don't want to put in the work to do long-term diet and exercise.
Right.
Problem is those diet pills don't work long-term, so they end up not giving the results that they want, but everyone wants a quick fix. So I think that's the real problem, is understanding that having a dog is about putting in the time to do that stuff. And the quick fixes, they come with side effects, and they typically don't have those long-lasting results that you usually think they will.
Exactly. Yes. This has been a fascinating conversation, and I really, I can talk to you and talk about dogs for hours and hours. But I want to get into you're an author too. You have written books, several books, and you have just released a book as well. I wanted you to talk about your book and the journey that it took you to write this book and to get to this point.
Sure. So thank you for that. Yeah, and I could talk to you all day for dogs about dogs. That's why I say I could talk dogs all day. So it's one of the beauty of loving your job. Like
Yes,
you could just, and when
exactly.
I get together with a like-minded dog trainer, I'm like, we could just go on and on and on. So
Exactly.
I appreciate you having me on in general just to chat about it. But yes, I do have a new book. It comes out November 3rd. It's available for pre-order right now, and it's called Easy Dog Training. And I've written a couple of books. This is actually my 7th book. And a couple of them are dog books, a couple of them are not. But when I was approached by this publisher in September to write this dog book, and I was like, you know what? Do I really need to write another dog book? I'm not sure I do. And I had a lot of stuff going on, and I kind of was like, I don't really know if I want to do it. And it kind of just went nowhere for a number of months. And then they reached back out to me in April or March. March, I think. And they said, listen, we would still like you to write this book. What do you think? And I thought I thought about it again, and this is right as COVID started, and I suspected, although not to the extent that it happened, that COVID was going to cause some problems for dog people. I thought there was a lot of problems were going to become as a side effect of this, although I greatly underestimated it quite a bit. And I had free time because I couldn't really do a lot of work. I was home. So I'm like, you know what? This is a great opportunity to do it. I think it could help a lot of people. So I said, sure. So I wrote the book very quickly. They wanted it released this fall. So I wrote it in 5 weeks. And it's designed to be easy. Like all my books are designed to give you like just what you need without too much fluff. I'm not a very big guy on the quoting like theory and I don't care what Ivan Pavlov did, and I don't care if you know the difference between negative punishment and positive punishment. All those are nice principles to know how to apply, but I'm like, this is what you need to know to get your dog to stop doing this. So it's basically easy to read. You could go through it fairly quickly, and it'll give you, again, your foundation. So I think it's going to help a lot of people. So I'm actually really, really excited about it. They did a great job designing it. I couldn't be happier with the final product. And it's
Do you have a copy of it to show us?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry. There it is.
There it is. Yes.
So, so it's cool. It's got like all these like really good illustrations and photos and stuff, but it's really cool. And what I'm doing now, I'm doing this big push before the launch of the book. And right now you can pre-order copies, and anybody who pre-orders a copy, if you forward me and send me an email with your Amazon like receipt, just forward me it, I will give you any of my online courses for free.
Wow.
And they're like valued from like $47 to like $67. So on my website, you can just go to online courses. You get any one of those for free just for pre-ordering the book. If you order 3 or more, you get all the courses for free.
Wow. You're really passionate about this project, and you're willing to give it all.
Yeah, I mean, let's help some dogs, So doing the pre-order helps the book do really well when it's launched, and it helps it get noticed by more people. So I want to incentivize that and reward you guys. While you have to wait for the book, you could go through some of the courses and get some help right away.
Very good. Now, before we end, is there any tip that you can share from a beagle owner's point of view regarding beagles? Because I've got tons of beagle owners, beagle viewers who would love to have any tip. So one tip that you can share about beagles and your point of view of beagles and how to deal with beagles problem.
Well, I'd say like the frustration of a lot of beagle owners. I would say if you've come across another beagle person, you can almost see kind of like the same look of like desperation on their face. I think they require a little more patience and understanding to know that you have to be okay with them not doing what a lot of other dogs do. So with my pit bull and I, we used to walk. I'm big into exercise. I love to walk and stuff, and that went away when I got my beagle because he will sniff one spot for 20 minutes. I can't even get him around the block in less than an hour.
Right.
So I can't be frustrated every walk. We're 3.5 years in. I have to accept that at some point and realize I'm going to take him for his walk. We're going to sniff a little bit. I'm going to put him back, and then I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to go for a walk. Yesterday morning, my daughter and my wife were going for a walk. I'm like, you taking Bowie? They're like, oh, no, we'll walk him later because they need to get exercise. So I think you have to just understanding their beagleness and not trying to change it. Again, understanding the dog you have and then living around that. So, you know, I have to understand that if he sniffs something, that's fine. But the thing also about beagles that I've noticed is they are like off the charts affectionate. They are so like attuned to us. Like they're just such great companionship. And that's one of the things that was such a gift during this pandemic when we were stuck at home. Like we always talk about what a blessing he was during this tough times and how he's helped us through it. So I think if you just accept them for their beagleness and just embrace all of that love and know that there's certain things you can't do. So he's very well trained, but I'm not going to leave food on the table. Like he's opportunistic. He's a hound. I don't care how, like, and if I'm there, he's pretty good, but yeah, his nose is going to take over every time. Yeah. So I think just understanding those limitations you need, and if you understand and implement that, you'll love them. They're great dogs.
Great tip. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time for coming to my channel and sharing your expertise and insight and all these tips. Any last word?
No, that's it. I just, I always say every day with the dog is a good day. No matter what, even if they're peeing on my feet or they're trying to bite me, it's still a good day. So just appreciate, I think one of the things that this pandemic has taught me a lot is to be grateful for the little things in life. And so be grateful for your dog, love on him, have fun with him, because you will never, ever in your life with any other living creature on the planet find another relationship like you will with a dog. There's no animal, there's no person that's going to give you that kind of relationship. It's so special. I feel so bad for people who are not dog people because they're never going to experience that relationship. So embrace it and love it, and just put in the time to teach your dog, and you'll get the most out of them.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And if people want to learn about you, obviously, I think the best way is the ferndogtraining.com. Is there any other option?
Yeah, ferndogtraining.com is where you'll find me. You can find all the links on there to my social platforms and stuff. And if you want the book, I created a special link, just ferndogtraining.com/new book. And that'll take you right to Amazon. And then you just send me an email at ferndogtraining.com with your Amazon receipt, and I will tell me what course you want. You get it for free.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Awesome. It's a pleasure, Saro.
And I'll see you next time. And until next time, have fun with your dog.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Yes.